point about the energy, I think is right. I think that Mamdani did, in fact, obviously elicit excitement from primary voters that Andrew Cuomo did not. I suspect Cuomo is more in line with the kind of politics that Stephen A. wants, and he got beaten heavily. So, the point about free stuff, like, it is true, I think, that obviously people don't want a sort of socialist command economy, but if you look at, like, I mean, is free childcare an unpopular thing for the government to
He's probably referring to the government-run grocery stores.
Well, he is, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, even those that's not actually free stuff. You would still pay in the grocery store. It's a mechanism to try to keep prices down. But my point is that there are certain things, like, for example, single-payer healthcare is still much more popular in polls than our political discourse would suggest. So I don't really take Stephen A.'s views all that seriously, with all due respect to him, but let me know what you think.
Well, I think that this was a very unique election, and I do think the Democrats should be wary of taking too many lessons from a young, relatively good-looking, charismatic guy with a really good ad campaign in a city whose primary base of voters is probably far more progressive than the average U.S. state, and also who is running against a sort of
widely disliked opponent.
Yeah, widely disliked, disgraced former governor who had multiple scandals, was very unlikable, and really failed to ever challenge Mamdani in any kind of significant way. That's not to say that Mamdani doesn't deserve his flowers for running a really great campaign. Yeah. Obviously he does. But I really want to see, I think, exit polling, if such exists, for the ranked choice New York City system, to see what were the top issues being voted on by New Yorkers, what was it that they were looking for in a candidate, how much of this was a protest vote. I think those are all important things before the Democrats deciding to design their whole future based on this one guy.
Yeah, I think that the issue that you identify, which is over extrapolating from particular single elections, is a real issue, and it's a real issue here. And it's also something that I think often, honestly, plays out in media coverage, generally speaking. You know, someone wins a special election and it's like, oh, this now heralds a massive sea change in this, that, or the other. And oftentimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it's the consequence of specific circumstances. I absolutely take the point that in this instance, the lack of appeal of Andrew Cuomo was a part of Mamdani's victory. And that is not to, as you say, sort of besmirch what Mamdani did. I do think that although the electorate in New York is clearly more progressive than most American states, it is the case that Mamdani was able to speak in a very direct way and with conviction. And I think one of his advantages over Cuomo, beyond the likability thing, was if you have candidates who genuinely believe what they're saying, they are much more fluent in explaining that than somebody who's trying to thread needles or obey focus groups or placate certain constituencies. I think Mamdani did that, and some of the simpler or more direct slogans, we're going to create free buses for people, we're going to have free childcare for everyone, those kind of things had a real appeal, and good for him. I don't think that, particularly in a city like New York or some other major cities, that the fact that someone is a democratic socialist necessarily renders them unelectable. Probably renders them unelectable in a national election, but he's not running a national election.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, besides Mamdani being generally compelling, and even Republican strategists I've talked to have said the same thing, like this is pretty objective opinion.
He's a pretty good politician. Yeah.
Certainly. I think also one of the things that worked to his advantage is that he didn't fall into the trap too much of nationalizing the election. Andrew Cuomo talked a lot about Trump on the campaign trail. When he did his, I believe it was the New York Times candidate profile, he was asked what is the biggest threat facing New York or the country, and his answer was Donald Trump and his threat to democracy. Okay, great if you believe that, but your job is to be mayor of New York City. And Mamdani, I always go back to this, the answer about which foreign country would you visit? Would you go to Israel? No, I am focused on the people of New York. And as boneheaded as I think a lot of these proposals are, I think they would be disasters for the city overall. He made it about New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
We disagree on the merits of his proposals,
sure.
but we agree, I think, on the efficacy of his tactics.
That would probably be a whole show,
exactly.
honestly.
A whole other hour.
All right, we have a lot more topics to talk about on Rising right after this. Stick around.